Respected Premij, by God's grace, we are getting the chance to have spiritual discourses. And whenever we understand, we listen to the spiritual discourses, we come to the conclusion that this world is unreal. It's just an illusion. We think that this is a real, but actually it's not real. And that understanding is very important for spirituality. Because if we understand that this world is real, we'll get involved in worldly things, and the day we have to leave this world, at the time we'll be repenting, oh, I thought this world to be real, but one day, today I have to leave this world. So spirituality says that this world is unreal. Understand the reality behind this world. The one who is witnessing this world is the real world. When that witness leaves this body, this world is zero for him. Then the body doesn't enjoy anything. Everything is left away. So that power due to which we are conscious is the reality. Rest is all temporary, it's unreal. I remember a story of King Janak. He was sleeping, and in the dream, he had a very frightening dream, that some enemy has invaded his kingdom. He has lost the battle and has gone to the forest. No one is with him, he is alone there. And he is very, very hungry, very much hungry. Nowhere he is getting food. Finally, he sees a house of an old woman and requested for food. She gave him some uncooked rice and lentils and say, okay, you cook your food. He mixed those two things and prepared a dish. In preparing also, he had to take a lot of trouble because he has to collect some wood there and burn the wood, make it to prepare the dish. He has to take a very much labor he has to do. Anyway, he prepared the dish. The dish was not complete, but still he was so hungry that partially cooked dish he took out. He couldn't control his hunger, and he spread on a banana leaf because in the forest he can't get any thali or any plate. So on a banana leaf he spread that prepared. He called it khichdi, a type of dish which when we make from rice and lentils. He was about to eat. Two bulls came up fighting, and they destroyed the whole food, rampaged it. And he was so hungry, and when he saw the food being destroyed in mud by those two bulls, out of hunger he cried. And when he cried, he woke up and saw that he is a king. He is in the palace. There are so many servants waiting for his orders. So, he was in dilemma that which one is the truth. The one I was dreaming, is that true, or now what I am seeing in the awakened stage is true? Because when I was dreaming, everything seemed to be real to me. And when I woke up, now this seems to be real to me. At that time, that was unreal for me, the vacant stage experience. And now, when I woken in the vacant stage, the dream seems to be unreal. So, something is real just now, and something was real that time. What is the truth? he came into a dilemma. And so, to understand the truth, what is the reality behind this creation, he called all the intellectuals, spiritual so-called masters, learned people, and he prepared a special hall for them. There were many chairs, and anybody could come in that hall, answer his questions. If he could not satisfy the king, he'll be imprisoned till the king gets a satisfactory answer. And the one who could satisfy him with his answer, he said, I will offer all my kingdom to him. The whole kingdom I'll give him, the one who can satisfy me, clear my this doubt and satisfy me with his answer. So many learned people, intellectuals, so-called masters came, but nobody could satisfy the king, and they were imprisoned. In that hall, he had kept a high chair also, like a king's throne, And the condition was that if anybody comes and sits on that higher throne and tries to give an answer, if he could not satisfy the king, he will be hanged. So all the so-called saints, preachers, learned people, out of fear, they all sat on the down chairs, Nobody went to sit on that throne with the fear that if I could not satisfy the king, I'll be hanged. In this way, many learned people came, so-called spiritual people came, and they were all imprisoned. There was a young boy named Ashtavakra. Ashtavakra means deformed from 8 portions of the body. From 8 parts of the body, his 8 parts were deformed. Ashta means 8. Vakra means deformed. So he had a deformed body, and he came to know that his father has been imprisoned by the king because his father couldn't answer the king's questions and couldn't satisfy the king. So he said to mother, I'll go and bring my father back. I'll answer the king. And he went there. There was Delhi used to be gathering, all the intellectuals, learned people used to sit on their chairs, waiting for someone who will come, and if he could answer, he'll be also imprisoned with them. So Ashtavakra entered the hall. King was sitting, the minister was sitting, all the learned people were sitting there. And a person deformed body, he was walking like this, If you have seen a deformed person walking. So he was deformed from 8 places. And so you can understand how deformed his body was. Anyway, he moved and he directly went to the throne and sat there. A young boy, deformed body, and going direct to the throne, where if he couldn't satisfy the king, he will be hanged. All the learned people started laughing. What a joke. What a funny situation is this one. This boy, a deformed boy, and going to the throne to answer the king. They started laughing. Ashtavakra called the king and said, King, why have you got this gathering of cobblers? Why have you called so many cobblers? To the learned people, a boy is saying cobblers. King was upset and surprised. He said, how are you saying? What are you saying? These are learned people and you are calling all of them cobbler. Ashtavakra said, the one who knows about iron, we'll call him an iron person. The one who knows about gold, I will call him a goldsmith, because he has experience about the gold. Similarly, this person, they laughed on me. What? They saw my skin, and seeing my body, they laughed. This body is, this skin is what? Like the leather, like the skin of the animals. The skin is the same. So they have experience only up to the skin. And so they have not seen the soul, the consciousness within me. A sugar can be in a twisted shape, but the juice inside the sugar cane is not a twisted one. The river may be a, zigzag, but the water is not a zigzag. Water is always the same. So these people, they are only limited up to the knowledge of my skin, and that's why I call them cobblers. The whole, gathering there was dumbstruck. A boy calling them cobblers, and with the logic he is giving, a perfect logic. King was also surprised because what the boy is talking, what Ashtavakra is talking is correct. So he couldn't put a second argument there. He has to accept that in spiritual terms they are cobblers, because their vision is limited only up to the body. They don't have the experience of the spirit, the consciousness which is dwelling within the body. Anyway, now the question, the minister stood up to put a question. Ashtavakra said, this question is yours or of the king? The minister said, it is of the king. Then why are you coming in between? Let the king put the question. So the minister sat down, and King Janak stood up and asked, which one is true? The one I saw in the dream, or now in awakened state, what I am experiencing? Out of these two, which one is true? Ashtavakra said, both are untrue. Neither what you experience in the dream is true, nor what you are experiencing in the awakened state is true. Both are untrue. Then Janak asked, then what is the truth? And this is a vital question. We should also ponder over this question and try to find out the answer to this question. Actually, what is truth? We may say so many truths, but all these are temporary truths, relative truths. When we are in a vehicle and if we see outside, we'll see that trees are moving. But actually the tree are not moving, because my vehicle is moving, so I just see the outside tree moving. We see the sun revolving. Actually the sun is not revolving, the earth is revolving. So in this way, what we see also is sometimes not true. Truth is something else. And moreover, some truths changes. That's a temporary truth. But there is an absolute truth which never changes. Somebody asked Einstein, he was a great scientist, in what form do you believe in God? Science doesn't believe in God, then what do you say about God? He said, what spiritual people say God, we scientists call it absolute truth. Everything in the world is changing. Just now if I say it is around 8 o'clock Indian time, it is true for some time. If I say today it is Wednesday, it is Tuesday, so this is temporary truth. It will change. If I say this month is month of May, but after few days this will change. Even if I say this year is 2020, after 1 year this will also change. So whatever we see in the world is not permanent. I remember a small story, A king made a beautiful building, palace. That palace was so beautiful, everybody was praising for it. And the king announced that if somebody could find some fault in my palace, the one I have constructed so beautiful, so perfect, I'll reward him. People used to come and see, and nobody could find any fault in that construction. So beautifully perfect construction was there. One day a saint came and he said, there are two faults in this palace. King was surprised because it was perfect. How could this sage saying that there are two faults in this one? King asked, what are the two faults? He said, one fault is that you will not be permanent. You cannot permanent stay in this palace. One day you have to leave this palace and go away from this world. So this is the one shortcoming of this building, this palace. You will not be always staying in this palace. And the second shortcoming, the fault is, one day this palace also will go to ashes. It will be finished. Maybe after 100 years, maybe after 500 years, but one day this building will not remain. Now we see the old buildings, and their remains is only there. The buildings have been destroyed by time. So nothing in the world remains permanent. So he says there are these two weaknesses, shortcomings in your palace. So friends, actually nothing is permanent. Everything is a relative truth, a temporary truth. Nothing is a permanent truth. So Einstein said, but we in science believe that there is an absolute truth also, which is unchangeable, which cannot be destroyed by time, which will always remain as it is. And that absolute truth you call God, we call it absolute truth. And science has not been able to experience that absolute truth. But spiritual science enables us to experience that truth. This is the beauty of spirituality. Spirituality doesn't say you believe on God. It says experience God. Of course, some of the philosopher, religious people say just believe in God. Friends, I don't agree with that saying. Because if I just believe in something, I don't get that thing, what is the use of believing? I am sick. I know that there is such a medicine which will cure me, and I just believe in that medicine. If I don't get that medicine, my disease will not be cured. I read about water in a book, and I just believe there is water, but if I don't get water, that reading is of no use to me. So unless there is something practical, just believing is not sufficient. And nowadays, most of the spiritual people say, believe in God. I don't agree with that. Please excuse me. I say experience God. God can be practically experienced within us, the inner temple. In Hindi, they call it mandir. Mandir means within the mind. So there is a temple outside and there is temple within our mind. In the inner temple, we can practically experience God. I'm not trying to bluff you. I'm not trying to put you in confusion. It's a fact. Because I was also a non-believer of God during my college life. And being a science student, we used to say this is all superstition. These sages, they don't have any work. These spiritual people, they bluff the society and they're just passing time unnecessarily, where there is no God. But friends, something happens. If you have a grace of God, something happens which will take you to a spiritual path. I went to see a picture named Guide. And in that picture, the final scene was that the soul is coming out of the body and going away. The body is saying, don't leave me, don't leave me. And the soul says, oh, I am going to heaven, I'll enjoy life, and I am going out. That was the end scene of that picture. I didn't believe in soul. I just believed that the body is everything. There is no soul, no conscious energy. That picture, it disturbed my mind. I couldn't sleep for the whole night with this question, whether there is soul or there is not soul. Whether what was shown in the picture is something imaginary or it's a reality. And so the whole night I just passed without sleeping, The question started troubling my mind, disturbing my mind, that what is the truth? What is the truth? Whether there is soul or there is not soul. So these questions troubled me very much. Then the logical brain gave a solution. It said, why are you searching for this question, whether there is soul or not? If there is soul, there is God also. So instead of searching that whether soul exists or not, you search whether God exists or not. If God is there, the soul is there. If God is not there, the soul is not there. So instead of first searching for the soul, you search for the God. So that logical conclusion came up. And so I started with this search, that whether there is God or there is not God. Now, how can I get the answer? Because there is no way so that I could have an answer that whether God exists or not. Then another thought came in the mind. And again a logical thought. That the scriptures say, the books say, these spiritual people say, God is omnipresent or omniscient. He is within everywhere and is listening to everyone, any moment, any time. So when I said in myself, when God is omnipresent, it's a real story I am saying. When God is omnipresent and omniscient, He is listening to me here also. So I prayed. I said, God, if you exist, please prove me your existence. Because I am not going to waste time without knowing that you exist. So please, if you really exist, you say I prayed from heart. It was not a challenge, just a humble request. If you really exist, please convince me practically that you exist. And if you could convince me, that much I can say, I'll try to devote most of the time for you. That was the promise also I made. It's a reality. And if you couldn't convince me, I'm not going to waste my time searching for you. So this vow, this promise, this request I made to him. And after that request, from the next day, things started like this, I was compelled to believe in God. I'm talking short. And I could experience God. What is His form? What is His real name? What is the actual truth? And so uh, now I enjoy talking about him because I've been able to experience him, to connect with him. Of course, merging the mind is a long process that let me know. I can't say when it's going to happen, but actually I've experienced him internally, externally, in every way I've experienced him, and so I'm enjoying him. And because of course I couldn't devote that much time which I might have promised, but still I am to always try to do at least some time so that what I vowed to him I could fulfill a part of it. So actually he is the truth, and so that truth is God. That truth is the holy name. That truth is the power which is dwelling within us. So friend, I was talking about the story of Janak. Janak said, when that is not truth, what I saw in the dream and what I am experiencing in the awakened state is also not true, then what is truth? Ashtavakra said, the power due to which you witnessed the dream state, the power due to which you are witnessing this awakened state is the truth. It was at that time also witnessing that, and just now also it is witnessing that. That power which is within you, the witness, that is the real truth. Janak said, can I experience the truth? He said, yes. So come on, let me experience the truth. Ashtavakra said, for that you have to be my disciple and you have to give something, because this is not free. King said, I have vowed that I will give the whole kingdom. What is more than that you require? Ashtavakra said, I need the thing of yours, not the other thing I want to have from you. Janak said, the king said, this kingdom is mine. Ashtavakra said, no, you are only looking after the kingdom. Before you, your father was looking after, before him, your grandfather was looking after. And once you leave this world, your son will be looking after this kingdom. So this kingdom is of the public and you are authorized to look after it. It is not yours. I want something from you, yours. Janak said, I am giving you my body. He said, the body is also not yours. Before you were born, body was not with you. After you die, the body will not be with you. I need that thing which is yours. Janak was puzzled, but finally he was anyway intellectual. Finally he said, then I surrender, I devote, I give my mind to you. He said, yes, I want your mind. And now mind is not yours, the mind is mine. He said, okay. Now let me have the experience of God. Come on, he said, come with me. And Janak has said that he wants the experience of God, that if he put one leg on the horse, and when he is about to ride, before that state, he could experience God. In such a short time, he wanted the experience of God. That was a very difficult condition, Ashtavakra said, yes, it's no problem, come with me. He asked him to put one leg on the horse, what we call that, through which we ride up the horse, Name I am not getting it. So, and then he said, King, Janak, mind is womb. He said, mind is yours. Oh Master, I have surrendered my mind to you. He said, now I'll give you the experience of the holy name, and my order is, you connect your mind with the holy name till I say now get it away from the holy name. Till then, you are not authorized to take away your mind from the holy name. King Janak was given the experience of holy name. That holy name is not within words, friends, not within vocabulary. I have repeated many times. Someday we will be discussing the holy name in total. So, and said now you connect your mind with the holy name. Janak started concentrating on that holy name. Once a thought came to him that let me open the eyes and put my second leg on the horse and ride on the horse. But then he thought, for that I have to disconnect the mind from the holy name. And without the order of the master, how can I disconnect the mind from the holy name? So he kept meditating on that state. And he attained trance there. He attained samadhi there, what we call that state of trance. And he realized his mind merged in God and he became enlightened. Then he said, Master, now I've got the enlightenment and now I have given the kingdom to you. Now you look after the kingdom and I'll go away. He said, whose mind is this? Say, mine is yours, because now whatever you order, I'll follow. Then Ashtavakra says, my order to you is, you look after the kingdom, but now the kingdom is not yours. Kingdom is mine, but you are authorized to look after it. And you know that Janak was called as Videha. Videha means a person in the body, but without the body. And actually spiritual master and enlightened masters are like that. So to understand a spiritual master, we have to consider many things, and that we'll discuss sometime, some other day. Now the time is up. So again we close our session today here. And friends, spirituality is not a thing which we can understand in a day. We have to be open-minded. Some people are with a closed mind. They fixed it, that this is the truth. And that's where we miss, because if we become think that what I know is correct, that's a blunder in our life. When Socrates was asked, how much you how you are so learned? Socrates said, because I know that I know nothing. And this attitude, this thinking should be within us. Then only we can learn spirituality, we can progress in our life and have peace and happiness. Thank you everybody. Thank you very much.